Hey everybody, this is my first modular patch tutorial on how to make an acid-style bassline using the Roland SYSTEM-500, along with a few select modules. A lot of the concepts I'm going to talk about in this video can be achieved with many different modules. There are even acid-specific style eurorack modules that are basically just for this style of sound. But I think one of the cooler things to do in eurorack is take something that's not immediately meant for a certain task and tricking it into doing it. So we're going to be doing that with the SYSTEM-500. We're going to be using the Copper Traces Seek. We're going to be using the Mutable instruments Kinks. We're going to be using the Form-S SISM. And that's pretty much it. The SYSTEM-500 oscillator is a great starting point for this because it gives you 6 waveform outputs for 2 voices. So you basically get 2 3 oscillator voices, and that means you could do polyphonic stuff, but it also means that you can layer sounds and get really nice and deep chorused types of tones. And for this task, we're going to be doing a combination of that, and we're also going to be using some of the additional oscillator outputs for distortion and FM. And that's how we're going to basically color our sound in doing something that's a little bit more interesting than just a basic acid style patch. This is also where we're going to be using Kinks to our advantage, and I'm going to get a little into that later. So let's start by programming a basic sound. We're just going to take the square wave output, route it into the filter, route the filter output into our VCA, and our VCA is going to our speakers. We're going to take the Seek, which is a 64-step sequencer featuring an accent out in addition to CV and gate out. So if you have a sequencer that has an accent out, this is going to be a great way to use it. And we're going to take the CV output of Seek and put it into the key input of the oscillator. And we're going to take the gate output of the Seek and route it into our Roland 540 dual envelope, and take the envelope out and route it into the filter modulation input, especially one that has an attenuator on it, so we can control how much the envelope is affecting the sound. So now we should be getting some sort of plucky things happening. So if you have an accent on your sequencer, try routing it into the filter module's second attenuated input, so you can adjust how much the accent is impacting the sound, and you're going to get a little bit more of an animated type of sequence happening. So our patch is sounding pretty okay, but we can definitely make things more interesting. So this is where Kinks comes into play. Sidebar. Kinks is a 4 HP utility module by Mutable Instruments that has a great combination of simple but effective features. We're going to be using its top section, which can invert and rectify waveforms. As a simple demo, check out this basic oscillator patch both before and after Kinks rectifies the waveform. The characteristic definitely changes, so we're going to use that to our advantage. So we're going to add some dirt and overtones to our sound by using filter FM, and we're not only going to just use another oscillator from our voice to do that, we're actually going to route it through Kinks first, but we're going to do it in a very interesting way. So we're basically going to take the output of the filter module and route that into Kinks. And from here, we can just route the inverted waveform, which is essentially sounds pretty much the same to the original waveform, and route that to our VCA. And then we'll take the fully rectified output of Kinks and route it into our SISM, because this will enable us to adjust the amount of distortion to our liking. And then the output of that is going into our third filter modulation input. In this case, it's the key input. And that's the reason why I'm using SISM, is so I'm able to adjust the amount of distortion that we're applying. So rectifying the sound post-filter will make the sound a lot more dynamic. The makeup of the overtones will change with the filter cutoff position, and it's not going to be just a static change in sound that we're using for FM. So it'll sound a lot more animated, it'll sound a lot more interesting. Let's see what happens when we add a second detuned oscillator into the filter. It's sounding a lot more animated and interesting. And it also changes based on how detuned the oscillators are, so you can get a lot more of an aggressive type of distortion happening, or something a little bit more subtle. Finally, we're also going to utilize the SYSTEM-500 square wave, which sounds really cool, and route that into the phaser module, which also sounds really cool, and then route that back into the filter to add even more characteristics. So now we have a really cool acid style bass line happening using the Roland SYSTEM-500, but we're also getting a lot more interesting results than what we would have been able to do just by patching a basic subtractive synth patch. So we're using filter FM to our advantage, we're rectifying waveforms, we're making it more adaptive to the sound that we're starting with, and it's sounding pretty cool. So in conclusion, this video has been a basic overview of how to create an acid style bass line using the Roland SYSTEM-500. Feel free to leave a comment below on what you'd like to see next, and feel free to subscribe for more videos and original music. Thanks.